Hey guys, thanks again for clicking on this video. For me, a time of introspection and reflection is always a good thing, and I hope that you'll humor me for the next few minutes. I find it interesting to not only look back on your own life experiences, but to research your family history to see what life was like for those that have gone before you. This is something that I was inspired to do, and what I've learned so far has given greater meaning to my life, the choices that I make, and the legacy that I want to leave to my children and grandchildren. And I hope it has the same effect on you. The reason I did this was because I realized that I don't really know much about my family's heritage. You see, both my paternal and maternal grandfathers died before I got to know them. And sadly, aside from a few funny anecdotes every now and then, I don't really know that much about them. My father's father, Dr. Nicola Desiato, passed away when I was only 3 years old, and my mother's father, Joseph Beauchesne, 7 years before I was even born. I've thought a lot about these two men, these two strangers. I wonder what personality traits and genes that I've inherited from them. I also discovered that my life and business, Desiato Homes, in a lot of ways is carrying on not just my family name, but my family's legacy. These men and the way they lived their lives had a profound effect on their children, my parents. And no doubt, I've been raised in such a way that my life and personality have spun off from the tapestry of their life experiences. Let me tell you how this all started. After enjoying a meal with some extended family, my uncle brought out a box of old memories that belonged to my grandmother, who passed away in 2013. Among the assortment of items, we uncovered an envelope. Inside this envelope was something that struck me and was the catalyst for my introspection and reflection. What we found was the original agreement of sale for the house that my great-grandfather purchased in Philadelphia in 1954, which would ultimately become the house in which my grandfather, Dr. Nicola Desiato, would establish his medical practice once he emigrated from Italy to America in 1959 with his wife and their first child. My father was the first of his family to be born in America, at least that I know of. I don't know much about my grandfather, although at one point I had a bottle of cologne that belonged to him, and the scent brought back memories of a man I hardly knew before he passed. They say that your sense of smell is one of the strongest triggers of memories, even ones you didn't know you had. He passed away in 1987 when I was only 3 years old. A quick Google search allowed me to uncover my grandfather's obituary, which revealed to me several things I didn't know about him. It reads, "Services were held yesterday for Dr. Nicola Desiato, a Philadelphia police surgeon who died Friday. He was 60 and lived in Feasterville, Bucks County. A general practitioner, Desiato was chief of family medicine, head of the outpatient clinic, vice president of the staff, and a member of the executive committee of the James C. Geoffrey Medical Center." I don't know if I pronounced that word correctly, but give me a break. He also served as chief of family practice and was a member of the Board of Governors and the executive committee at Oxford Hospital. He was on the staffs of John F. Kennedy Memorial Hospital, the Parkview Division of Metropolitan Hospital, Rolling Hill Hospital, and Lawndale Community Hospital. Desiato maintained a private practice in Feasterville. Originally from Italy, he was a graduate of the University of Bologna and its medical school. He came to the United States in 1959. So he was the exact same age when he came to America that I was when I was reading his obituary. He was a member of the Philadelphia County and Pennsylvania Medical Societies and the American Medical Association. Desiato had been honored by the Chapel of the Four Chaplains for his years of community service. Survivors include his wife, Wilma Del Ciotto Desiato, 3 sons, Luigi, Luca, and Cesare, and 3 grandchildren. I am one of the 3 grandchildren mentioned. I was the youngest at the time. While the above lists a number of impressive items for a resume, it doesn't quite give me an accurate picture of who he was as a man, and if there are any traits in me that have passed down, aside from maybe a passing resemblance. I've seen pictures of him playing the guitar, consequently all of his sons became musicians, and have heard audio tapes of him singing with us when we were very little. Hopefully in the coming years I'll be able to uncover more about his personality and private life, not just his professional life. As for Joseph Beauchesne, my mother's father, he passed away in 1976, 7 years before I was born, and sadly, I know even less about him. I've heard some classic stories from my grandmother about how they met, but not nearly enough for me to get a clear picture of who he was, how he ticked, and how, if in any way, I take after him. Unfortunately, I've not been able to locate his obituary online, but I will keep searching. I know one of my uncles on the Beauchesne side is currently tracing our lineage, and I'm excited to see what he finds out. I asked my mom to give me some bullet points so that I could understand where he came from and what life experiences changed the trajectory of his life. Here's what I found out. He was born on April 23, 1918, to Marjorie Doherty and Joseph Beauchesne. His father, my great-grandfather, died in the 1918 flu epidemic when my grandfather was only 6 months old. So he was raised by a single mom, just like me. He left high school 3 weeks before graduating to take a job to help support his mother. He entered the U.S. Army in 1943, served in South Pacific, and was in the Battle of Okinawa. He married his sweetheart, Ruth Flynn, 3 weeks after returning from service in January 1946, after a 5-year engagement. He worked for Gulf, but when he was offered a station of his own, he did not have the funds to purchase it. He also worked for Wilkie Buick, and until his death in 1976, he worked for a Ford dealership in the Flourtown area. He was in charge of the leasing department. He took other work to help support his wife and 6 children, including managing the Merben and Mayfair movie theaters in the 60s and 70s. By the way, he raised 6 kids in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom row home in Northeast Philadelphia. Boy, I wish people these days understood the difference between wants and needs. Working in real estate, I hear from my clients that they need 4 bedrooms when they only have 2 kids, or they need 2 full bathrooms. Different times, I guess. He only had 1 week of vacation per year and usually spent it camping with family and friends in various states along the East Coast. He was also a 4th-degree member of the Knights of Columbus. He loved to sing. He performed in local minstrel shows in the 50s as Mr. Interlocutor, I don't know if I say that word right, belting the ballad My Prayer. Aha, now that's something interesting. I knew my grandmother was not a performer, but every one of her kids had the performance gene. Of my brothers, you could say that I received the heaviest dose of said gene. He served in his church as an usher, Boy Scout troop leader, and ran the poker table for at least 20 years of church carnivals. I know that both he and my grandmother were and still are very active and committed to their church. Having also served in my church for many years, I can definitely say that I take after them in that way as well, though I'm not too good at poker. I still have a lot to learn about my family history and how it's led me to being where I am today. But the journey of discovery excites me. I'm also reminded that God placed me in this family for a reason. The interesting thing is that when I decided to start in real estate, I came up with the name Desiato Homes for my website. At the time, I didn't really think of it as anything other than my last name. But now, in light of all these things, I realized that my business, heck, my entire life, is about carrying on and building on my family's legacy. In a strange way, I feel their support because my success means the success of everyone in my family. It means that the Desiato and Beauchesne name will forever stand for something good. They're cheering for me because our legacies will be forever linked. I'm forever connected to these 2 men, of whom I know only a little. But one thing I see among all the bullet points listed is that they were people with real families. But more importantly, they worked hard to provide a better life for their families. They worked hard to meet the needs of those close to them and those of total strangers. Whether it was through delaying the start of their own family to fight in a war and save the lives of many Americans with families of their own, or by helping people in a blue-collar neighborhood secure a vehicle so that they could get to work and provide for their families. Or maybe dedicating their life to medicine so that they could save lives and provide for people's medical needs. Their legacy is a part of who I am, just as my legacy will be left for my children and grandchildren. That's one of the reasons why I write. That's why I document my life through podcasts and videos, so that my children can look back and say that their father worked hard and had integrity. That he cared more about being authentic and genuine with those around him than getting ahead. That he was committed to helping people by giving back and paying forward. However different these 2 men, Nicola and Joseph, were from each other, and however different their backgrounds, I see one common thread throughout their stories. And this thread is what connects me to them forever. They were just real people. And they were committed to meeting real needs. Isaac Newton said, "If I've seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." If you'd like to know more about Desiato Homes, I encourage you to visit www.realpersonrealneeds.com to download your free copy of the Real Person, Real Needs book. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and Godspeed.